let's reset things where they stand. Sherelle, you did a note on the premium message boards this past week, earlier in the week, just kind of giving folks what we know because there just have been minimal developments since the portal officially closed. So, give us a little bit of the flavor. I know it's mainly focused on two international targets right now, but if you wouldn't mind, take a few and reset the board for us, as it were.
Right. So I'm sure we're going to talk about him later, but Drake Powell's kind of made it clear that barring some dramatic change over the next couple of weeks, that he fully intends on staying in the draft. So that's happened since we last talked. So that's a data point. And then there are two, we'll call them wings, two wings from Europe that North Carolina we know has contacted. I do not believe that is all the wings they have contacted from Europe. Those are the two that we've been able to confirm. So one is Ivan Karchinkov. We've talked about him before. He plays for Bayer Munich. Um, just a kind of a grown man, even though he's 18, with the way he plays and the way he looks. So we know that North Carolina's talking to him. I think Arizona's another school that folks have mentioned with him. Not quite sure where things stand, other than with these international recruitments, there are a lot of things to do. Let's put it that way. A lot of process, a lot of I guess you call it red tape, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of things you have to do to get international student into a school, and then frankly, not sounding haughty or anything, a school like North Carolina. Same thing with Luka Bogovac. We haven't talked about him on here. That is a name we just were able to share. I think within the last week or so, we know that North Carolina's talking to him. He's a bit older. He's 22, whereas Karchinkov is 18. And he probably will end up playing some on the wing wherever he decides to play in college, but he's probably honestly more of a two guard, whereas Karchinkov is more of a pure, I would say, three. I'll let Sean jump in on that. But so those are the two that we know they've been talking to. I mean, frankly, we know they've been talking to others, but those are the only two we feel really good about confirming and sharing and all that stuff. So that seems to be where the board stands. There was contact to another player who was in the portal, but it doesn't seem like that is going anywhere. That player recently withdrew from the draft, but it doesn't seem like that is really going anywhere from a Carolina perspective. So right now it looks like it's just the two wings that are known, and then the other guys in the background, especially from overseas, that they're talking to.
And clearly, the wing is a position of need, specifically around depth. I'm not going to use Sherelle's favorite phrase of depth piece, but North Carolina does need more depth and more ability to score from the wings. And so these players make a ton of sense there. Sherelle alluded to the fact that the process is very difficult, very layered, very meticulous. And I would just kind of use a comparison for folks listening or watching this, that if you think about how different a domestic flight is versus an international flight, right? There's probably some similarities there as far as just the the diplomacy and the other layers of things that go on to it, not just getting a player into school. There's a lot of other things that come with that. Sean, if you wouldn't mind, compare and contrast the two, Bogovac and Karchenkov, for everybody, because I don't think we've had the time or the space to literally put that onto wax yet. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead.
Karchenkov, so he's, as Sherelle mentioned, Bayern Munich. They're about to start their domestic playoffs, the German BBL, on Monday. So, given the fact that they'll probably make it to the championship round, they will probably be playing through mid to late June. I think is how it goes. But in terms of playing style, very physical, younger, around 19 years old, about 6'5" wing. Pretty strong slasher, attacking the rim, good moving off the ball. Shooting wise, he isn't afraid to let the ball go up from three, but over the last 3 years in different levels of competition, has been, if memory serves me correct, right around 30%, if not a little bit lower from a shooting perspective. And free throw wise has been in the 60s, but that's been high volatility in terms of how he shot it. So definitely some work to do on his shot. I think he has a decent looking stroke, but probably some fine tuning there. But once again, more from him: physical, strong finishing at the rim, and he's not afraid to post up guards. Really likes that left block if he's able to catch the ball in a post position. And then when you go over to Bogovac, his season is done. He played very well in the Adriatic League, a little bit older, so he has that experience. And from watching, I guess it was close to 2 years ago, his team played USC from a scrimmage perspective, and looking at him physically, he guarded Hosea Sellers, who was at Stanford last year, now St. John's, a decent amount. Boogie Ellis was the clear best player on that floor, but shooting wise, he shot close to 40% from three. That's going to be his main offensive attribution. Nice looking stroke, shoots it very, very easy. A little bit of a slow release, which could be concerning, but he can do a little bit off the dribble as well. Defensively, not going to be a standout defender, but with his size, isn't somebody that teams will try to pick on. But very talented offensively and a good looking stroke from the outside.
If you know what North Carolina has and you only get to pick one, based on just measurables alone, who do you take? And then based on what you've seen on film, who do you take?
It's a good question. I think there is that strong need at the three spot. Obviously, Powell will be there. There has been talk about playing bigs, which I disagree with in terms of you probably don't want to see Stevenson out there given some of the lateral issues on his end. So I do think that three is a need, and that's where Karchenkov and his ability to attack the rim could be helpful. But also knowing shooting is a big question mark. I think Bogovats also from that age of scoring almost 14 points per game in a very competitive league would be probably a more easier transition if you're looking at really a one year time frame. There might be some similarities with Dixon. I think he's a little bit bigger, but coming in at 21, 22 is a lot different than coming in at 19, just as he showed over the last 2 years with his development. And I think his really just agility and movement with the ball, he's able to do a little bit more than Karchenkov is. I'd say more of a straight line type of player. So if I had to pick one, I would go with Bogovats. But you could make a argument that both of their skill sets could be worthwhile right now.
See, that's the sauce. That's the sauce that we love here, and that's why we are your favorite podcast. Sherelle, give me some more gravy.
Yeah, I was going to ask Sean a question. Like, of the two, who do you think would be the more adept creator at the NCAA level? Obviously not primary creators, but who probably has more creation, I guess, for themselves and others among the two or between the two?
I think Bogovats has more. He's more comfortable with the ball in terms of if you had to play him at the one or probably more in pick and rolls of handling the ball for prolonged periods of time, even under pressure. Karchenkov has some pretty strong assist numbers or assist rate depending on what you're looking at. A lot of that is stationary, so reading off of cuts, and I think his IQ is pretty high just from looking at how he is moving off the ball. And once again, from his adaptation, playing in the EuroLeague and playing in the BBL, very good comparables. But I do think Bogovats, just from his ball handling ability, would be able to offer a little bit more.